Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study of the entire Bible. Currently we are in Proverbs chapter 6, so let's get into it. Gleaning from more spoken words, pearls of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. All right, chapter 6. It says, "My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, and have given a pledge for a stranger, if you are snared with the words of your mouth, caught in the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, and save yourself, for you have come into the hand of your neighbor. Go hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor." And that to give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. Now, when I first became a Christian, I heard many people use this verse of scripture to say, and by the way, he's talking about co-signing for people. Okay, co-signing. And I heard, Christians that would say that the scriptures teaches that you should not, you should not co-sign. And I remember, because I remember begging someone to co-sign for me, and they said, nope, 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 nope. Scripture says don't do it. Now, so there's two ways I want to 2 points I want to make from this. One, he's not saying don't do it. In other words, he's not giving a command not to do it. However, he is saying you would be unwise to co-sign for someone. Now, as a rule, I do not co-sign for anyone. Won't do it. For the very reason that he's saying right here, you are gambling on someone else's actions. If you co-sign for someone, which means you are becoming the guarantee of the debt. So it could be a credit card, car, doesn't matter. And so you have to kind of look at this, that if a person needs a co-signer, there are things that they need to get together in their life. That is my wisdom for people. They don't like to hear it because they may want a car or something, and so the creditor may say, you're not strong enough for us to give you a loan, so therefore, if you get someone to co-sign for you, we'll give you the loan. Now, what that means is this. If that person defaults, they immediately come to you. And oftentimes, they will go to court and get a wage assignment. Next thing you know, you what is this coming out of my check? Right? Court order. And a lot of times people will, and I've made the argument in my early years, oh, I would never default. I would get 2 jobs if necessary. Now I have seen people default on loans. And basically like, well, because you're stuck. So again, my thing is, if a person thinks that I need this, you probably don't. If you are not, and I would say this, if you cannot, and this is a good example, buy a car. You don't buy a car. If you can't, if your credit is not strong enough for you to get a car, you need to examine then what I need to do to get myself in a place to get a car. Now, there are also obvious exceptions to me to the rule. If I was going to co-sign for a person, I like the wisdom of one sister who you could say was stingy with her money. I don't know what. But she said if I was going to do that, I would put the money aside. So let's say for a car, if I'm going to co-sign for your car, put the money aside. That money is aside so that if you default, I can pay off that car. His point is that co-signing for people is a bad move. Now, he never commanded not to do it, but he simply said it's a bad move for you to do it. Now, like I say, when it comes to family members, I would say, well, let's talk about how we can get you on track. Now, here's my thing. If you're not willing to put in the effort to get on track, you're telling me you're a bad investment. Okay? And I can tell you when I was younger, oh my God, I didn't see that because I wanted that car. And I'm going to tell you something. And usually I'm going to tell you right now, even though, yeah, I could probably tell you I would never have defaulted if I would have gotten 2 jobs. But what Proverbs is saying, I can't count on you doing that. Okay? So he says right here, don't do it. That's all. It's just bad news. It's not a command. You're not breaking the command of God from doing that. I was taught that, but that's not what he's saying here. All right. Verse 6. Go to the ant, O sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Without having a chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in the summer, gathers food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. And you see illustration of an ant who doesn't have, an army or whatever, but yet they work diligently. God just made them that way too. God just made the ant that way. But he did say, and we're going to see these illustrations: the sluggard, laziness, used over and over and over again. Okay, in Proverbs. Being a sluggard is a sin. Okay, but notice what he says, that a lazy person, a person who does not want to work, disaster is going to happen to their life. A lazy person. Okay? So in this case, he's talking about a lazy person, one who is lazy. A lazy person. All right. Verse 12. A worthless person, a wicked man, goes about with crooked speech. Winks with his eyes, signals with his feet, points with his fingers. With the perverted heart devise evil, continually sowing discord. Therefore calamity will come upon him suddenly, in a moment. He will be broken beyond healing. So, sometimes you don't always see this in people, but notice he said this will happen. Verse 16, there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. Now this is very interesting that Solomon makes this statement. There's 6 things the Lord hates, and then 7 are an abomination to him. Now, I want you to know what will not be on the list, and I'll tell you why I'm splitting the hairs. First of all, he says, and this is what the Lord hates now, and then notice he hates him and then abomination to him. Now, abomination simply means to be abhorrent. Okay? Sometimes when we use the word abomination, understand that it means to be despised, abhorrent, deeply. Okay? He said, so the seven things that the Lord hate. Let's see. Haughty eyes. Okay. Proud eyes. A lying tongue. You know, a lying tongue. Hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans. Feet that make haste to run to evil. We just kind of saw this in the news here. Hordes of young people running to evil. A false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. In other words, one who just always sows discord. Those are the 7 things that God hates. Think about this. Haughty eyes, proud eyes, pride, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, and that can be wicked plans of all kinds of things too, by the way, whatever's wicked. But your heart, see, divides them. Feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and those who sow discord among brothers. He said, the Lord hates those 7 things. Now, we should also be clear, this is not the only 7 things the Lord hates. Solomon is just citing these 7 things here. Now, I would also say this, though. It is something that a lot of church folk ignore. It is funny to me how a lot of church folks will focus on. Think about the hot button issue today. Think about this. Adultery is part of it, but homosexuality, transgenderism. I mean, these things here, the evangelical world acts as if God will fall off of his throne because of these things. But notice what he says right here, that he specifically spelled out these things he hates. Haughty eyes. Now think who is famous that the evangelical world worships. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue. It was said that this person uttered thousands of lies during his tenure as president. Hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked plans. Feet that make haste to run to evil. Now, I think about the Chicago youth that tore up downtown Chicago that made the news. But think about how many on January 6th ran into the Capitol. Okay. False witness that breathes out lies. One of the news cable network just paid out almost $1 billion for the lies they told. And then those who sow discord among brethren. That is something that's happening in our country, by the way, that's tearing our country apart. The lies that people tell. It happens in churches, happens in family members, happening in our society. All right, verse 20. Excuse me. My son, keep your father's commandment, and forsake not your mother's teaching. And we see here how both parents should be teaching. I'm going to come back to this when we get to the discipline, those scriptures in Proverbs that deal with the rod and the discipline. Yeah, but notice what is taught more than giving the rod is what teachings. And so he says, son, my son, keep your father's commandments and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Teaching your children is far more important than giving the rod. The teaching them. Verse 21, bind them on your heart always, tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. And when you awake, they will talk with you. When you obey your parents' teaching. Godly teachings, by the way. Verse 23, for the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching a light, and the reproofs of discipline are the way of life. Now again, I'm going to come back later to this verse, because notice he says, commandment is the lamp, teaching is the light, reproofs of disciplines of the way, and the reproofs of discipline of the way of life. Those three things in raising kids, parents, and those three things in kids you should be obeying. So then he comes back to verse 24, to preserve you from the evil woman. Now again, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. So that's what the context here is, that evil adulterous woman. Solomon really had that out for, right? Verse 25, do not desire her beauty in your heart. Do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread. But a married woman hunts down a precious life. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Can one walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? I know what you're probably thinking, that you see those people walking on hot coals, but if you notice, they walk very swiftly. All right, verse 29. So is he who goes down to his neighbor's wife. None who touch her will go unpunished. People do not despise the thief if he steals, to satisfy his appetite when he is hungry. But if he is caught, he will repay sevenfold. He will give all the goods of his house. But he who commits adultery lacks sense. He will get wounds of dishonor, and his disgrace will not be wiped away. For jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation. He will refuse through. He will accept no compensation. He will refuse though you multiply gifts. In other words, no matter how many times you try to apologize. Now let's kind of think about that. And I'm thinking about one man's indiscretion over 40 years ago. And that's still a stain on his life. And when he says here that, notice he says, he who commits adultery lacks sense. He says, he who commits adultery lacks sense. He who destroys it, he who does it destroys himself. He will get wounds and dishonor. His disgrace will not be wiped away. Now, he talks about, I missed one verse, where was it? Oh, he says, people do not despise the thief if he steals to satisfy his appetite, but when he is hungry. But if he's caught, he'll pay it sevenfold. In other words, if a person steals for food, okay, he's still going to have to pay for the stealing, but people are going to understand it. But he said the adultery, he said it is, and jealousy is something. Jealousy is so strong of an emotion that under the Old Testament law, God had I think he instructed at least three cities of refuge, that when a man's jealousy overcomes him, he can flee to this city of refuge. And there was so much it is hard to control jealousy. Even to this day, jealousy is usually the root of many murders. They call crimes of passion. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, If you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I got to see the next study.